Good morning, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you again for coming back. So I just stopped by to give you some update and to share some news. So as I reported in the breaking news earlier today, uh, the details are still sketchy, but so far, the Ethiopian government attacked Mekele and killed three civilians and injured more than dozens. So I have a statement to read on that one. So the Ethiopian government is like sending a mixed message. Want to deny, want to admit, as like first denied, then later admitted the attack. So we said already about Ethiopian government, especially the prosperity officials under the leadership of Abiy Ahmed. They lack credibility. We said before, repeatedly. They want to lie to Ethiopians. They want to lie to the global community. But thanks to the media, thanks to satellites, they cannot hide anymore. The world knows what's happening in every corner of the globe. So that's it. And three confirmed dead, and dozens of civilians also confirmed injured by multiple airstrike the Ethiopian government conducted in Mekele today. And the situation concerning the ongoing war is very tough. The Ethiopian government, the Prosperity Party officials, they want to win the war by, engaging civilians, calling on civilians to get ready to fight in this conflict. They didn't win with tanks, air bombardment, artilleries, and all these militia from all over Ethiopia, plus the federal police, plus the Eritrean soldiers. They couldn't win. So now they are calling on citizens of Kombolcha, Dase, and other cities to defend the cities. This is like calling people to engage in the bloodshed. This is not a good strategy, but they are using it. They don't care. They care about their position. They care about false prosperity party. So they don't care about civilians. They want to defend their position by all bloodshed of Ethiopians. They don't care. They don't care about the global community call for ceasefire, dialogue, all these. They ignored. They want to fight by using civilians and by giving 1 month training, or very short training, and some of them without training, just civilians. So this is not a good strategy, but they don't care. Prosperity Party officials, Abiy Ahmed, and his core supporters in Region 3, they don't care. What they care, to secure their position. So they call on Kombolcha citizens, Wallo citizens to fight with knives, with stake, with everything. How are they gonna do it? Those trained in the military couldn't handle it. How the civilians can handle it? It's remain to be seen. The other thing is restriction, curfew, also in Kombolcha and Dase, plus other major cities in Amara region. It's crisis in that country. You know, very tough. And the displacement of people, and people are hungry, people are starving, and thousands of people displaced. But Prosperity Party, they don't want to settle the issue. They want to continue. So that's a little bit update, and I have also update from U.S. State Department on the situation on Ethiopia, and from United Nations. And so I have a couple of news to read. Then let's start with U.S. State Department briefing on today's attack. Okay, let me see. There we go.
Planes. Well, we've seen these reports of an attack on the capital in Mekele. We are in the process of looking into them. We, broadly speaking, do remain gravely concerned by what has been escalating violence for some time. That includes the expansion of fighting in northern Ethiopia and in regions throughout the country. And, of course, the growing risk that fighting poses to the integrity of the Ethiopian state. Not only does it pose a risk to the state, it undermines critical efforts to keep civilians safe, and importantly, to deliver humanitarian aid to Ethiopians who are in dire need of such support. We urge all parties to end hostilities immediately, and for the Ethiopian government and the TPLF, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, to enter into negotiation without preconditions toward a sustainable ceasefire. We continue to believe that a sustainable ceasefire will help establish conditions for a dialogue that is credible, a dialogue that is inclusive, and to find a political settlement to the long-standing political grievances that have led to
the challenge
the
is
conflict.
our government
Moreover,
is not
as we said
listening.
before, the government of Eritrea must immediately and permanently withdraw its forces from Ethiopia, consistent with the comments already made by both Ethiopia and Eritrea. Sure.
The executive order on sanctions went into effect weeks ago. What is the administration waiting for to impose sanctions under that regime?
Well, we have been very clear that we are prepared to use every tool at our disposal until and unless the various parties change their course. Obviously, the executive order that went into effect in September, I believe it is, does afford the U.S. government an important tool to hold accountable those who are responsible for the violence, those who are responsible for the suffering of the Ethiopian people. We are absolutely prepared to use that tool and other appropriate tools as might be appropriate. Himar.
On Iran, I wonder how the United States view Iran's request
Okay,
for a meeting in Brussels with EU officials.
That's a statement from U.S. State Department on the airstrike conducted in Mekele and all the situation or the crisis in Ethiopia. And they keep calling for dialogue, for cessation of hostilities, but we don't have, serious leaders in Ethiopia to handle the situation. They want to continue the bloodshed. They don't want dialogue. They don't want reconciliation. They want to win through bombardment, through airstrikes, through artillery fire, and by engaging civilians in this bloody war. So that is their plan. And that remains to be seen. So let's read some news and also have a couple of videos at the end. Thank you again. Today is October 19, 2021. Ethiopian government admits Mekele airstrike. Ethiopia has admitted it was behind airstrikes in the capital of the conflict-riven Tigray region, hours after it denied it had carried out what rebels say were deadly raids. The state-run news agency said the attacks had targeted rebels' communications and weapons facilities. But the witness says the attack targeted civilians, targeted market, not communications, not weapon facilities. But media controlled by the Tigray People's Liberation Front said 3 civilians had been killed. The rebel group is at war with Ethiopia federal government. The government initially denied the allegation it had struck targets in Tigray capital Mekele. Why would the Ethiopian government attack its own city? Mekele is an Ethiopian city, government spokesman Legesse Tulu asked. Ethiopia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs went on to accuse the TPLF of killing at least 30 civilians in recent attacks in Amhara and Afar regions states, which both border Tigray. The foreign minister added, terrorists are the ones who attack cities. Terrorists are the ones who attack cities with innocent civilians in them, not government, Mr. Legesse added. But hours afterwards, the state media said it had carried out successful strikes with the aim of preventing civilian casualties. The TPLF still says this is not the case, accusing the government of deliberately carrying out 2 strikes on Market Day. Credit for this, BBC. So, first try to deny it, hide it, lie to the Ethiopians, lie to the global community, but later they use the media and they use the foreign ministry spokesperson to confirm the airstrike and saying the target was weapons facilities and the communication center. But this is false. That's false. According to eyewitness from the area, the target was market and civilians, the one died. So this one is a statement by President Joe Biden on the passing of General Colin Powell. I reported on it this morning. So this is a statement from White House. Jill and I are deeply saddened by the passing of our dear friend and a patriot of unmatched honor and dignity, General Colin Powell. The son of immigrants, born in New York City, raised in Harlem and the South Bronx, a graduate of the City College of New York, he rose to the highest ranks of the United States military and to advise 4 presidents. He believed in the promise of America because he lived it. And he devoted much of his life to making that promise a reality for so many others. As a senator, I worked closely with him when he served as a National Security Advisor, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and as Secretary of State. Over our many years working together, even in a disagreement, Colin was always someone who gave you his best and treated you with respect. Colin embodied the highest ideas of both warrior and diplomat. He was committed to our nation's strength and security above all. Having fought in wars, he understood better than anyone that military might alone was not enough to maintain our peace and prosperity. From his front seat view of his history, advising presidents and shaping our nation's policies, Colin led with his personal commitment to the democratic values that make our country strong. Time and again, he put country before self, before party, before all else, in uniforms and out, and it earned him the universal respect of the American people. Having repeatedly broken racial barriers, blazing a trail for others to follow in federal government service, Colin was committed throughout his life to investing in the next generation of leadership, whether through his care for the women and the men serving under his command and the diplomats he led, or through the work he shared with his wife, Alma, at the America's Promise Alliance to lift up young people, or through his years leading the Eisenhower Fellowships. Colin's leadership always included a focus on future. Above all, Colin was my friend, easy to share a laugh with, a trusted confidant in good and bad times, in good and hard times. He could drive his Corvette Stingray like nobody's business, something I learned firsthand on the racetrack when I was vice president. And I am forever grateful for his support of my candidacy for president and for our shared battle for the soul of the nation. I will miss being able to call on his wisdom in the future. Jill and I are sending all our love and strength to Alma, their children, Linda, Anne-Mary, and Michael, their grandchildren, and the entire Powell family. Our nation mourns with you. Colin Powell was a good man. He will be remembered as one of our great Americans. So that is President Joe Biden and Jill Biden expressing their appreciation and a deep sorrow on the passing of General Colin Powell. So rest in peace. I also said on behalf of Concerned Citizens Media, I express sadness and wish the family, friends, and colleagues strength and comfort at this difficult time. He did serve the country well. So, okay. North Korea fires ballistic missiles, disrupts Japanese election campaign start. North Korea fired at least one ballistic missile off its east coast on Tuesday, pulling Japan's new prime minister off the campaign trail here and overshadowing the opening of a major arms fair here in Seoul. The launch, reported by officials in South Korea and Japan, came after U.S. and South Korean envoy met in Washington to discuss the nuclear standoff with North Korea on Monday. Spy chiefs from the United States, South Korea, and Japan were reported to be meeting in Seoul on Tuesday as well. The North Korea launch would be the latest weapons test by the country, which has pressed ahead with military development in the face of international sanctions imposed over its nuclear weapons and missile programs. One ballistic missile was launched about 10:17 a.m. local time from the vicinity of Sinpo, South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff said, where North Korea keeps submarines as well as equipment for test firing submarines launched ballistic missile. South Korean newspaper Jungang Ilbo cited an unnamed military source as saying the government was assuming that it was an South Korean ballistic missile test without elaborating. North Korea has also launched other type of missiles from that area. Our military is closely monitoring the situation and maintaining readiness posture in close cooperation with the United States to prepare for possible additional launches, JCS said in a statement. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said that two ballistic missiles had been detected and that it was regrettable that North Korea had conducted a string of missile tests in recent weeks. There was no immediate explanation from South Korea's JCS for the conflicting number of missiles detected. Kishida cancelled a scheduled campaign appearance here in northern Japan, and the Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary told reporters that Kishida was planning to return to Tokyo to deal with the missile situation. South Korea's Unification Ministry, which handles relations with the North, said daily routine lessons calls with the North were conducted normally on Tuesday and had no comment on the missile launch. Credit for this, Reuters news agency. So there are very challenging spots on a global stage. One of the challenges spot we have to watch as a global citizen is the situation in North Korea and the South Korea area, and the situation with a nuclear bomb plus those ballistic missiles. That is one. The other one is the China Taiwan issue and the joint military exercise with China and Russia. And also the other hotspot is the relationship between Russia and the NATO countries, plus the Iran nuclear issue. Also the Middle East, in the Middle East and Israel, Palestinian. So many serious issues we have to pay attention as a global citizen because it might affect us in one way or another. That's why we have to follow, we have to update ourselves. So these are the global challenges we are facing. We have to follow it, and we have to play a part if we have a solution to it. How can you deal with the nuclear North Korea? And economically very poor country. People are suffering, but the country has a nuclear power. How can you deal with it? How can you sign a deal with it? And the Iran nuclear deal, the Russia-China relationship, and the China and the Taiwan relationship, and many others. So that is enough on the reading part. Let's share a couple of videos and finish today's presentation. Thank you again. Let's see. two videos. One is the displacement this war created in Amhara region, and the issues related with the challenges related with displacement. People are suffering. Not getting food, not getting medication, and other issues. So that's one. The other one is update from United Nations. Oh, sorry. There we go. I have still. There we go. So that's the first one is the consequence of conflict, war, and this is one example. We have, so many other issues, not only in Amara, Afar, Tigray, Oromia region. So this is a challenge. Then after that, one more video from United Nations on the same issue from United Nations, a briefing. Let's.
Aba Alemu was 3 years old when she died. A month later, her mother, with a surviving infant, is trying to understand what happened. The doctors told me they have no treatment for malnourished children, but I pleaded to them saying, please save my child's life. They tried putting the treatment in her leg, her hand, nose, and head. They didn't succeed. They told me she was severely affected by malnutrition and could not help. They gave me some syrup and tablets. She passed away exactly a week away on Sunday. Haptam Mekele is among thousands of families in Ethiopia's Amhara region who are sheltering in the city of Desay from fighting further north. Tens of thousands of people have fled their homes in Amhara and Afar regions, scrambling for food and shelter in this bustling city. Fighting between rebels in Tigray and the Ethiopian military that started last November has spilled into neighboring regions. At this hospital ward in Desay, young men and boys, too frail to breathe, bear the scars of the conflict.
Those who died are already dead. Even those of us who survived are also dead, even if our bodies are alive, because we don't know who is alive or who is dead. First of all, there is misery from hunger. There's nothing to eat. Even if they escape the war, the people will die of hunger. There is nothing. Everything is closed. No markets, nothing.
While Ethiopia's government is accused of blocking supplies to areas under rebel control in Tigray, TPLF fighters have been accused of committing atrocities. Sada says she was attacked and raped in August by an armed man speaking the Tigrayan language. The attacker said to me, "We left our houses both to kill and to die. I'm from the jungle, so I have all the right to do whatever I want. I can even kill you." He raised his gun to me and threatened to kill me. I said okay to his demands. He also asked me for money and I said okay. Then he told me he was interested in me. I said, "Please do anything you want." And then he raped me. A spokesman for the rebels in Tigray has denied accusations of using rape as a weapon of war. But as the conflict grinds on for nearly a year, Ethiopians who already had so little feel as though they're now losing everything. Priyanka Gupta, Al Jazeera.
These supplies include fuel and cash, without which humanitarians cannot do their work, and medicines so our colleagues can reach people who desperately need assistance. And I have a statement on the situation in East Swatini.
Oh, sorry.
The Secretary General is following with concern the ongoing developments in East.
No.
The lack of essential supplies, especially cash and fuel, is severely disrupted.
Okay, a little bit. Sorry.
Of aerial attacks this morning, and those took place apparently in the residential area of Tigray's capital, Mekele. We're still trying to verify the details of the airstrikes, but we are deeply concerned about the potential impact on civilians who reside or work in the affected areas. The Secretary General is deeply concerned over the escalation of the conflict in northern Ethiopia, as illustrated by the airstrikes in Mekele today. He underlines that all parties must avoid the targeting of civilians or civilian infrastructure. The Secretary General reiterates his call for all hostilities to stop. He urges the parties to prioritize the welfare of the people and to provide the necessary support for critical humanitarian assistance to flow, including facilitating the movement of fuel and medicines. As we've been telling you, the lack of essential supplies, especially cash and fuel, is severely disrupting aid operations in Tigray, where at least 400,000 people are facing famine-like conditions. And we once again remind all parties to the conflict of their obligations under international humanitarian law to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure. This includes hundreds of humanitarian workers on the ground of working tirelessly to provide assistance to millions of civilians caught up in the fighting. And the fact that civilians are being caught up in the fighting is forcing us to reduce and the fighting itself is forcing us to reduce life-saving operations when people need them most, including food distributions, water distribution, and health services. In neighboring Amhara and Afar, our ability to reach people in dire need of assistance, including many people who have been displaced multiple times, has been hampered by the escalation of fighting. We urgently call on all the parties to allow and facilitate the rapid and unimpeded passage of relief supplies and aid personnel to all areas with humanitarian needs, including those affected by the recent fighting. These supplies include fuel and cash, without which humanitarians cannot do their work, and medicines so our colleagues can reach people who desperately need assistance.
Okay, that's
and I
it.
have a statement on the situation in East.
So that's the United Nations briefing on the airstrike in Mekele and the other humanitarian challenges associated with this war. People are not getting medicine. People are not getting food and fuel and cash. All this, especially in Mekele, all the banks they are not in service, no electricity, no communication, and government employees are not getting their salaries. So the whole country is shut down. So Abiy Ahmed is and his supporters are saying Ethiopia, Ethiopia, Ethiopia day and night, but they are destroying Ethiopia in another hand. They say they are fighting TDF, but they are shutting the whole region. I talked about this on previous videos. Their strategy is not working. For time being, it looks maybe working for them, but it's not. They have to stop this war immediately, as the global community demanded, and open the opportunity for dialogue, reconciliation with all stakeholders about that country, about Ethiopia. Amara cannot solve that country's problem by itself. So they are supporting Abiy Ahmed. They are behind Abiy Ahmed. Sometimes they look like they are fighting inside, but generally they are behind him, and he's going forward with their plan, spreading the conflict, but no peace, no stability, and the country is losing its resources on this war, and the country is facing inflation, the country is facing global isolation, high employment, and people can't even buy basic foods, and displacement, internal displacement and external displacement of Ethiopians is high. So all these problems, and they are still not ready to listen to the global community, and they are still not interested to end this conflict, to end this bloody war. They cannot win. They understand, but they are trying to win, I said, by using 100 million people. They have no shortage of human resources. Probably they have shortage of training time, equipment, finance, maybe. So they think they can win with human resources. It doesn't work like that. So Abiy Ahmed, I think it's better for you to give up, and facilitate the situation for the country to settle, to end this bloody war, to end the division in that country, to end the hate in that country, to end the command post, the conflict in that country. If you are listening, please tell him, facilitate like Haile Mariam Desalegn, your predecessor. He did it, early, before the country was collapsing, before war everywhere. There is war in Oromia. There is war in Benishangul area. There is war, serious war in Amara region and Afar plus other regions. There is a famine, hunger, drought in Oromia. More than 7,000 cattle died, and more to die because of shortage of drought. People are suffering too, malnutrition. And the government, what is doing? Using the resources to fight the war instead of helping these people. So the country is collapsing. As I repeat again, these people should stop all this aggravated war mongering and see a way out, find a way out. So that's all I have for today. I will be back with other news and updates. Thank you again. See you next time. Be safe. So long, everyone.